Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Rodney, how are you today, buddy?
Fantastic. How are you doing, Andy?
You know, I'm doing good. I found all my Easter eggs. Did you?
I didn't get to look for any. When you get my
Oh.
age and my kids are older, nobody cares about Easter eggs. You know, nobody
Well,
cares at all.
okay. All right. Well, there's it. There was a
We did. Everybody went to church. We went to church and
oh,
hung out. My oldest one was in from college, so
hmm,
it's nice to see him. So it was a
nice.
good Easter weekend.
Yeah. And I kind of took it easy myself and watched a little bit of March Madness. I
How
just
about that? How about Caitlin Clark, man? She is unbelievable.
I find that so exciting. I'm going to watch some of the men's stuff, but I'm not nearly as invested in the men's brackets as I am the women. I mean, it's like we got to
Yeah, I
take on
mean,
UConn, man.
I'm, I don't watch a lot of SEC women outside of my Lady Vols because my mom used to travel around with the Lady Vols. She's just a huge Lady Vols fan. So I'm a Lady Vols fan, right? I'm a Vol fan,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm an Iowa fan now. I mean, this Caitlin Clark is, man, she is fun to watch.
Angie, good morning to you, Miss California girl. Just wanted to stop and say hi. I tell you what, the it was so exciting. The competition between her and that other chick on LSU
Yeah.
with the oh man, I was like, how can you? She was so classy about that. Didn't
Yeah.
respond.
Well, the LSU lady last time that was for the championship, right? So they'd won a national championship on that one. So
Yeah, yeah,
if you win your national championship, you do a little trash talking. I mean, she's the best at her sport last year.
yeah.
I don't play it, but Caitlin Clark handled it like a pro. Didn't say a word.
Didn't say a word. Moving on.
Hugged
Moving
after
on.
But I tell you, she's changed basketball for women. I mean, have you seen the number of people that's going to her games? I mean,
Oh,
it's crazy.
I heard somebody say, for anybody that's watching this, where's this basketball thing? We're into Caitlin
Yeah.
Clark for a minute. They said the other day, and I have to. What do I know about it? But they say she's changed the geometry of ladies basketball because all of a sudden the 3-point line has gotten kind of blurry. They're taking the long shots and
Oh
and
yeah.
making it. How did you? Last question, and we'll move on to today's topic, which is kind of important, at least to me. I know to you. If I'm not mistaken, the Lady Vols coach got fired.
hmm You know, I was the last time I seen the Lady Vols, they lost in the Sweet 16
Mm.
just a few days ago, and I have no business critiquing a college coach, but I just never had seen our Lady Vols kind of be sluggish like they were. It was like they was out of shape, wasn't very well prepared. Um, I don't know. Our men's team just seemed extremely competitive. Um, they just didn't make a lot of shots. Is why I felt like they lost against Purdue because they didn't make a lot of shots. But I felt like the women got outplayed. I don't know. But when you after you come back after you lost Pat Summit, it's like losing Nick Saban, or So we're going to go through some challenges before we
Yep.
find. And we've already been through a few, but so I'd like to find them quick.
I think what we're going to do is start a new YouTube channel for sports. That's what we're going to do. But until that happens,
All right.
and with Pip, got it. There you go.
There we go. Let's pull this one up and see where we're at today. Today we're it looks like we're at plus 8 basis points. When it's green, it's good. Um, so if we look at the intraday chart and we'll scroll down and look at the actually what they intraday for, we'll go 1 month, and you see the changes over a 1 month period. It looks kind of crazy like this. We'll scroll out to a 3 month, and you get a kind of better idea of what it is. Kind of hit our low point down here in February. Made some pretty good gains. Got hit again, but we're back up. We had a bad day the first, but looked like tracking a little bit after that. We had an alert to lock yesterday, so after we broke through that barrier, that the floor, you see the lines there. After
Yep.
it broke through that floor, that's when they signal alert. But as you can see today, we're trying to recover a little bit. So,
And for anybody, I say this every week, for anybody that's watching and not familiar with these, those are inverted charts. So down is up and up is down. So
yeah, and there's a 6 month view. It doesn't, when you spread it out, it doesn't look so volatile, except you can see the huge swings.
yeah.
This is a 1 year view. So, see, back in October we had a huge gain. It's been moving around since then.
Yeah. And it seems to me that is that it? Is that
That's
it? For
it.
that? Okay. And I was checking, like I always do, Mortgage Daily News, and it's bounced way up back over 7 again. So again, that's an average. That doesn't mean it's for you. I mean, if you're thinking about it, it's case by case basis. Always try to say that. By the way, my name is Andy Elliott. I'm a realtor here in Williamson County, Tennessee. Clearly a Volunteers fan. And this is Rodney Wilds with First Trust, also in Williamson County. If you have questions, give us a call, send us a text. We'd love to talk to you about real estate or mortgages, no matter where you are. I'd love to talk to you about that. So I think it's not a surprise that what we're going to be talking about today again, and I think this is going to go on a while because it's an evolving topic, and that is going to be the NAR, the National Association of Realtors settlement, not the settlement per se, but what's interesting me is the response that's happening, I mean, across the country. I mean, are you seeing any of that? Are you seeing any of the stuff going on, Rodney?
Yeah, it's getting pretty wild. I mean, that's the thing about it is this thing. All right, first of all, you can just kind of throw the settlement out, okay? Because right now they've proposed a settlement to the courts, and for all intents and purposes, I think this thing's going to go through. But for something that has not changed yet, this is there's a lot of scrambling. America, the buyers have seemed to pick up on this and are already just proposing their changes since they feel like they can negotiate. It's created a lot of different variables to where I don't want to call it chaos, but it's just different now because everybody's coming in with their own, since this is going on, I got my own rule now. You know what I'm saying? It's like everybody's approaching it differently.
I think chaos it's heading towards chaos because here's what. Here we go. Did you feel that drop off? I'm in. Here's the thing that I need to pay attention to. Now, this is me. I've been in this business quite a while, and Rodney and I, he's been in the business 10 years longer than me. But we've seen changes. We've gone through the crash. We've gone through COVID. We've gone through the spike. We've gone through all of these things. It's been rock and roll here the last decade and a half. This is an entirely new thing. But here's what I want that I have to keep aware of, and that is for the contracts that are in place right now, and I don't know why, I guess over here is current. I don't know what
the contract's to your left.
Yes. And this is going to be future. Okay. Left to right. For everything that's going on now, it's pretty much deals have been made, agreements have been made. Unless there's listing agreements, it's going to be like terminated because, we're changing our mind. But as these months go on, as we come to the ruling, the approval, if that happens, regardless, I believe is the case. I'm going to say it that way, that the rule change by NAR is taking place anyway, which is the removal of the commissions from the MLS and buyer contracts signed before they start touring. Those are the two rule changes. That's it. That's created all of this chaos. 2 rule changes. They've got nothing. That's it. But like Rodney said, all of a sudden people are, and I've got some great examples. But what's going to happen with the contracts that we've got, the sum total of the contracts that are solid written contract, they're going to closing, nothing's changing. And then the next couple of months, it's going to be new contracts and new rules. And all of a sudden there's flat fee this, and there's bargain basement that, and no buyers. It's going to get weird for a while.
Yes.
I'm convinced of that. And something you said last week, and I'll shut up, was change is going to come. It's like that pendulum. I believe that it's going to swing too far, and people are going to go, wait, this is dangerous out here. And it's not working for anybody, and it's going to swing back at some point. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think we're going to experience a change, and the market's going to flush it out, right? As long as it's flushable, right? As long as it, as long as we can still continue to make deals work. You know what I'm saying? As long as buyers and sellers and the agents can still put everything together. When they're not putting things together is when we're going to be hurting. Now, but I think we'll be able to get things together. What I'm concerned about, honestly, the biggest concern is people are still going to buy a house, but they may not be represented. I mean, I think that's the first thing that would be the buyers are going to lose their representation when they're starting to go by, because that's what looks like is the most logical step to happen throughout this course.
And I've got a bunch. What he's saying there is, of course, the course of the change, because it's just volatile. I can't, and I don't want to be. I really don't want to be. I'm not a negative person. I think you know that, Rodney, and anybody that's watched our show. I'm really not a negative person. But sometimes, this thought occurred to me yesterday. We were talking about lawsuits and that kind of stuff. This version of lawsuits. Now, with all of these rules changing, all of a sudden you've got buyers and sellers and real estate agents out there. And I wonder, is there a chance that people are going to start suing agents because they didn't do what they thought their contract said, or agents suing taking buyers to court because, we had an agreement, you bought a house anyway, I see a lot of potential for that.
I do too. And it's, I don't know. It's going to happen. I mean, now is it going to be rampant? I don't know. I don't think it's going to be rampant, right? Because there's a lot of things that happen now that, could be. First of all, anybody can sue for anything, whether they actually have a reason or not. So it's going to happen, but I don't know, man. I don't know. It's going to be wild to watch. It's a very, it's a very tricky situation, because for me, and being selfish, I need you guys to be involved in our real estate deals. Like, I don't need one agent. You know what I'm saying? I need both agents on both sides and a title company to make this whole thing work. We have a lot of documentation. There's a lot, there's just a lot that real estate agents do. And it's never been, I don't think you've ever had to sell it like you have to sell it now, because you have to put a price on it. When somebody comes to you and wants you to help them find a house, you've got to put a price on your services, and you don't know who's paying for it. So it puts everybody in an uncomfortable position. And so I think that's why I say when people, the first option, instead of being in that uncomfortable position and see if they can work it out, they're just going to call the listing agent and buy the house.
Just to avoid the conflict, I think that you make a good point, and that's the first step. And the problem is, this is just the way I see it, and I call it a problem. Perhaps challenge is a better word. But if I'm talking, I know we went through this. I think touched on it last week, but here it is again because we're just getting started. I don't think it's unfair to say it's going to get pretty noisy. People are going to have a lot of ideas. A lot of them don't work. Some of them might. Some will be marginal. We're going to lose a lot of agents. That's going to happen. It's just going to be the wild, wild west for a minute until people figure things out.
Excuse me.
To try, yeah, I agree with you that their first instinct, so they don't have to fight about it, is I'll just go to the listing agent, which in the end you're not getting any representation depending on how things are fleshed out. But
right,
in dual agency, at least in my brokerage, that's not allowed, and I agree, because how can you be on two people's teams? You can't. You can't. So let's go through a couple of these things on this first article, and that the title is the realtors settlement is already changing the way some Americans buy and sell homes, and I've got some slides that'll blow you away. The first thing that says the mere prospect of a future settlement has already caused some Americans to change their behavior when buying and selling homes. Some prospective home buyers said they plan, get this, to restart their housing search after new rules are in place in hopes of finding lower home prices, while some home sellers aren't waiting for the new rules to take effect in July to lower or even eliminate the commission they offer to buyers' agents. The first sentence in there, at least the first half of whatever it was, they're going to restart their home search. Think about the poor agent's been dragging somebody around for 7 months.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Right. Yeah. And both of those, restart the home search after the ruling, and then what was the other one? The other one was they're going to go ahead. And that's kind of what I meant is they're going ahead and taking the new rules and just saying, I'm going to do whatever I want to today. Like,
absolutely. And if it's and it says, this is, I'm going to be flipping here. It says in this article, we're in uncharted territory. Pretty sure they meant uncharted, but that's where I come up with this wild, wild west. But so here's this home seller. Here's a story about this guy. Sales commissioners, where is it used? New rules are potentially clear what an intractable hurdle. Sales commissions traditionally share between buyers. Anyway, this seller is going to start with, here we go. Matt Hanley, a 49-year-old who works in insurance in Minnesota. He's an insurance guy, but now he's going to start dealing in real estate, apparently. Meaning he's a home seller. Has lived in his home since 2007. He's reacquainted with how real estate transactions worked when he recently purchased a new home. We were confused. Confusion is the tag word of the day.
Right.
He said, I'm like, wow, I'm surprised the seller has to pay my agent's commission. It seems like a conflict of interest. I can't believe that the guy, I'm just saying, if he had bought a house before, he didn't know that. He knew that. Right. He just forgot.
He likes the new rule.
He likes the new rule right now because he's a seller. If he was a buyer, he'd be singing a different tune, I think, probably.
Right. Yes, right. Yeah, exactly. And, and all sellers are going to try to take advantage of this, as they should, right? Every single person in America should try to get as most as they,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, so the guy, I like the guy's comment here. I'll let you finish up.
Hanley now plans to list his home in April after the NAR settlement was announced, though he changed course. Instead of offering to pay a commission that would be split between his agent and future buyer's agent, he asked his agent to write zero negotiable, which I don't know if I I don't think that's going to be allowed down the road, but that's what they did for now. As the buyer's agent commission on his home listing page. Here he goes. And this is what I think you're getting at, Rodney. Why wait for the settlement? This is common knowledge now. I'm going to try to be at the start of the bell curve. Hanley's experiment may be premature, though the new rules prohibit agents' compensation for being included on centralized listing portal. I don't think there was anything else. But his point, the point to this article and what Rodney's saying is, what are you waiting for?
Yeah. He feels like his house, there's not a lot of inventory. He believes it's going to sell, even if people have to pay. He says that, if someone really wants it, they're going to come up with their buyer's fee. That was his quote. So, I mean, that's accurate.
I'm glad you.
There's less people that can do that, depending on price range and things like that.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Rodney, because I was starting to read too much. But I am going to make a special point and read that part of that again. What sellers do, and I mean, this is okay. If I was a seller and I wasn't in the business, I'd do the same thing. I'm looking at everything I can imagine that would bring value to my house. If I painted the kitchen cabinets, look at those kitchen cabinets. That's got to be worth $8,000.
Right.
Got to be, And I power wash the driveway, $1,000 easy. I mean, you're trying to add value to your house that you're trying to sell all day long. But he said, and this is funny because you hear it when you go to listing appointments, you get the list. And he said, Hanley pointed out, and this is this guy, pointed to the favorable conditions in his market. Some of this Rodney mentioned, but to flesh it out, pointed to favorable conditions in his market as a reason that he believes buyers may still consider purchasing his home, even if they have to pay their realtor out of pocket. Now, if it's a $500,000, that's an additional $15,000 to them, if that's what they agreed to. We've got everything going for us. We have no inventory in our area. We're selling at a peak time, apparently spring. It's actually June is better, but peak is okay, spring. So he said, let's try it. If someone really wants it, they're going to come up with the buyer's fee. That's what I don't mean to repeat that, but sellers in the beginning, and I love them all because I'd be the same thing. Internal optimist until after about 3 weeks of nothing.
Yeah. He may face a change. His house would have to be spectacular to face down. But I don't know, everybody like right now may go to this house just assuming since it's not April, that there's a 3% commission in there. So they may be showing up and showing this house that, and then creating the problem about commissions, when the contract comes up. So
in this particular example, I think they said that they had in the MLS, because it can still show it. It said 0% to negotiable. And so and the rule isn't in place yet. If you're a buyer, do you want to negotiate that? I don't know. That's the problem. If there was a message for today, it's like, it's confusing. And that's why I'm going to show you these slides. I'll get to it in a minute. Just a second. You can tell I'm on a tear now. I've broken loose. This associate professor of business in Florida State, this is on that same article, said the settlement has helped raise awareness that people have the right to negotiate. Even so, said it's possible that the status quo is maintained. She's trying to give both, and I think ultimately that's where it'll end up, but not before some blood is shed.
Right.
That's maybe a little strong.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I go back to the very first thing you say on this. There was 2 changes made. There's 2 changes made, and we can go down all these rabbit holes, but the 2 changes made is, one, they can't list the buyer's agent's compensation in the MLS.
Correct.
But they can still call. They can still call and get it. Okay. So, I mean, that's one thing there. And then the second thing is that you're going to have to, if you're a buyer, you're going to have your buyer's representation agreement signed before you go see houses. And that means you're going to know what your realtor's charging in case a seller does not pay that fee. So those are the 2 changes. And and it's like we are getting into astronomy.
It's like calculus all of a sudden.
Yes, it is like those are the two changes. But yes, it is creating a firestorm because it opens up the door for everybody's plan and everybody's negotiation and just trying to make a deal work right now.
It is. We are in the land of what if. What if I find a house and there's no commission? Well, it's going to cost you $17,000 extra. Where's that money going to come from? That's what if. I mean, nobody knows the answer to that yet.
Right.
Let's drift. Let's drift. Sorry, I didn't mean to step on you. Let's drift into the total confusion article with Barbara Corcoran. Can we do that?
Yes.
But finish your thought.
Oh, that was it.
Okay. And Corcoran's, now I'm bringing up Barbara Corcoran because I respect her certainly as a broker. She's a good, great businesswoman. I don't know her personally, but I assume that she is. But she speaks very plainly. If something's good, it's good. If it's not so good, she's going to tell you it's not so good. In Corcoran's words, she was talking about the settlement causing total confusion in real estate. And that is, if there was a summing up of our first 26 minutes, it's the market and all the people involved are confused. Yeah. And here's what she said. In Corcoran's words, settlement has resulted in total confusion across the real estate industry. That's billions of dollars of confused money. Nobody knows what's going on. She explains a change that requires blah, 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 as well as the cost of each service. It's going to be, when you hire an agent, you're going to know what it costs. And I would hope that there's going to be some variables in that. But it says here, the Corcoran notes that this ruling will not prompt home prices to come down. What she says, and I have to agree with her, and we just read about the guy. For a lot of sellers, if they're early adopters, I'm an early adopter. You show me a new piece of tech, I'm buying it, even if it's not perfect, but I like new stuff. He's going to try to sell his house for an extra 3%. That's what he's going to try to do. And he's considering his one-time chance. This is strike while the iron's hot. And it's like she said, why you'd have to try, in that kind of thing. But that's going to be his chance to make that extra profit on their house. People are going to do that.
Yeah, the Shark Tank star, that's who that is, right? Who you're talking about?
Yes.
Yes. And one of her biggest points is that if, not to mention if rates come down, you're going to, again, have another frenzy because of low inventory. And we've got that pin-up demand we've talked about for a million years of the golden handcuffs and all that. So prices are not coming. You're right. I mean, she's by far saying she doesn't think that the prices come down. It's honestly right now is a better time to buy before, even with the changes upcoming or whatever.
Yeah. Well, because what's not changed is inventory. We don't have any inventory.
Right.
We don't have any inventory. And if you don't have inventory and you got more buyers, prices go up. And in this case, there's been this weird balance, that there's no houses to buy, but there's no buyers. There are very many that are pulling the trigger, Home sales was the slowest in a long time in 2023. It's slowest forever. But what she's talking about is that, and if we just go on, and we could even touch on that last article of hers, that she predicts that if rates go down to like 6%, that the home prices are going to skyrocket because you're going to get more competition and they're going to skyrocket. It's going to blow up.
Right. I'm just hoping it's a lot of the move up buyers that are +1, -1, that bring a house to the market and take one off the market. For me, that's what's going to, I hope, drive our economy, but or our way back on that.
Yeah. Home prices grew at a record pace in January as more buyers came off the sidelines, and that fierce competition has led to an eruption of bidding wars, which often drives prices even higher. I'm telling you, it's still going to be the case. You show me a good house at the right price, and it'll sell quickly and get multiple offers. It just will. If people try to squeeze more out of the house than maybe it can, it'll sit for a while. And I understand that completely. In
Yep.
2023, existing home sales hit the lowest level since 2005 as would-be sellers are locked into that window, just like what you said. Supply is slowly improving. People are getting used to the 6.5%,
Yep.
call it 6.5%. And so they're sort of coming out of their shells a little bit. But just when the thing that I keep preaching, I don't even know if it's right. You show me stability in a market, and I'll show you people that get more courageous and business starts to build. And, it's duration. If something's stable over a long duration, people start getting after it because they can trust the market. Last thing you want to do is buy a house and then 4 months later the prices tank. You don't want that. You don't even want a hint of that.
No, but I mean, it's I mean, what do? You buy when you have to buy. I mean, it's
that's true. But what I'm getting at is you show me a confused or a volatile market, and I'll show you people that aren't going to do anything. You show me a long duration of stability. It's like you feel safe. I'm going to go buy a house because I don't think I'm going to get ripped off in the next year or two. I feel good about it. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Let me throw one thing in here. The chaos that it's creating. I think some of the chaos is still. It's not all keeping people on the sideline. Like some of this chaos is I'm coming into this market, but I have my own crazy intentions of not paying anybody a fee or whatever the next guy says. So the good thing about it is that people are listing now. People are talking about listing in when this change happens, and then they're also talking about buying now. So that's a good sign. The chaos is those two changes and how are each seller and buyer going to handle them, because it's just there's no blueprint for it right now.
That's correct. So as we go into, maybe we can cover the industry seeking clarity. That would be a great way to roll into that, I think. One of the things that we had been speaking about was how this commission structure works in VA loans. And I never really knew the FHA involvement. You can explain that, although I've dealt with those for so long. But for example, with a VA loan, there's non-allowables. There's things they can't pay. And I'm pretty sure buyer's commission would be on that list.
It is.
And so would you handle this? It's an article about the industry, meaning lending, seeking clarity and the change in FHA and VA lending.
Yeah. Well, look, so after the rule change, and they're preparing for the rule change, I guess they should say they're preparing for the rule change. The NER have reached out to several of the federal agencies, Fannie Mae, FHA, VA, for lower income. They were lower income, budget conscious buyers who would struggle to pay the agent's commission out of pockets. Okay, that was their concern when they're reaching out to FHA and VA, because VA has a rule that says a buyer, somebody who's buying with a VA loan, a veteran, they cannot pay the real estate commissions. That's what's called a non-allowable. The seller has to pay them. The listing broker has to pay it. Somebody has to pay it besides the veteran. So they're coming in and proposing to, I think as one of their proposals was to allow the buyers to finance this fee. And I'm just going to say right here, FHA, VA, and conventional, none of them have come out and made changes to change a rule that's not really been accepted by the courts. They're not going to make VA. First of all, VA, if you as long as I've dealt with a VA, the first thing I'm going to tell you when a VA customer is when I deal with the Veterans Administration loan, they care about what happens to the veteran. Like that is they're like what's best for the veteran. If we're talking about an underwriting scenario, that's what they're talking about. What's best for the veteran. Not like what's best to get him approved, but like can he sustain his payment, things like that. So what I don't see them ever allowing people to finance commissions or fees or any of that other stuff into that loan amount. And the number one reason is this thing is sold as a secondary market security on a secondary market. It's a mortgage-backed security. So you can't pay, it's collateral. You know what I'm saying? The loan is against a collateral. And you can't add in, I don't want to say phantom fees, but you can't add in any fees for like,
that doesn't add value to the house. Is that the point?
Right. So you can't add, okay, I'm going to buy the house and the house is my collateral, but you can't pay, they're not going to allow you to pay the real estate fees. They're not going to allow you to put a new roof on and finance that in 99% of the cases. So, but what a lot of them are concerned about is since the seller or the listing agent is no longer paying the buyer's agent, and this becomes a fee for the buyer, should it be included into the seller paid concessions that the agencies already allow? See, VA already allows the seller to pay up to 4% of their closing cost. VA already allows the seller to pay off certain debt for the home buyer, which is not used very often, but a VA buyer could pay off debt to qualify, and it could be paid by the seller. And then on FHA, you're allowed, and conventional, you're allowed up to 6%, depending on your LTV, of seller paid concessions from the seller. So you're already up to 6%. The seller can give you 6% of the sales price for closing costs and things like that. I don't see any possibility under the sun that they're going to be able to allow them to roll in that and affect the loan to value like that. It's not going to happen. I mean, I would bet my house on it. But what I do think is good is that since the seller's not paying or the listing agent's not paying this buyer fee, a lot of people are concerned that that's going to fall into the 3% and the 4% of the other cost. Like if a buyer has to pay his agent fee, that's 3%. He can only get 3% from the seller now on an FHA loan because you can only get 6%. Right. But right now, those are separate, and they're not going to intertwine those, because it's customary for the seller or the listing agent to pay that fee, which actually comes from the seller, even though they just kind of say it's from the listing agent. It comes from the seller. Yeah,
it's broker to broker, right?
So, have I confused you to death?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I'm thoroughly confused. I got it now. They've got some work to do to get that figured out.
Well, I think they're jumping the gun prematurely on trying to change FHA and rules for the mortgage people.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Because they're never going to allow to pay, whether it's my commission, your commission, or anybody else's commission, into the loan equation to where it affects the loan to value. You know what I'm saying? Where it affects the loan amount, where it affects how much you borrow against the house, things like that. So
that's an interesting thing, because what you're talking about really it's an accounting question. You got the value of the house, then you've got commissions, and you've got all these additional fees that do nothing for the value of the house, versus you value a house and take a little slice of that and pay off this other stuff. It's just an accounting thing, right?
Well, it is accounting, but it's where it's coming from.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm not
or
good.
where they allow it. They will not allow it to go into the loan amount or to be financed. I mean, that's the bottom line of this. My 30-minute diatribe there is that in my opinion, they are not going to allow broker commissions to be allowed to be financed into these deals. But on the flip side of that, they're not going to back up and say, right now, they're not going to back up and say the 3% buyer's fee is part of the seller's total 6% commission or 6% seller paid closing costs.
Yeah, it's Angie has got a really good point here. It's going to be an interesting ride, to say the least. And if all goes well, we'll be right in the middle of these things. I think about you every day that I read about this stuff. I'm serious. When we're talking about the VA thing, and we'll let that go because I don't see an answer on that just yet. But as a seller, a pretty common question these days is when an offer comes in, or if an agent calls, say, "Hey, is the house still in the market?" That's what we traditionally do. We don't want to write up an offer that's got paper on it already. We'll call the agent and say, "Hey, is that house still available?" And they'll go, "They are." And then sometimes they'll go, "Is this a VA loan?" They'll ask you, I mean, they're allowed to, because you can be specific on excluding certain types of loans when you list a property. You can exclude them. And right now, even now, it shouldn't, but VAs kind of get the short end of the stick. People think the inspections are different and the appraisals are different with VAs. And to be honest, they can be a little bit. He said sheepishly. But they're usually not deal killers, but they're just sort of a different approach. Can you see a seller going, "Oh yeah, bring them on"? If they have representation, is my point.
You mean by paying the 6%, the 3%?
Well, let's say that we've got a seller that doesn't want to pay any commissions, and it's a VA, that would just exclude them from their pool of possibles. Wouldn't you agree?
Right. Well, they can't pay the buyer. They can't pay the buyer's agent. So they're either not going to have a buyer's agent, or sign a dual agreement or whatever's out there, or get free representation or whatever it is. But under no circumstances is a buyer for a VA loan allowed to pay the buyer's agent fee.
And here's my point. In the midst of a great confusion, additional confusion isn't going to help anybody when it comes to these VA buyers. That's all I'm saying. Yeah,
it's VA. I guarantee. See, the thing about I just think VA markets are VA markets. Like I'll refer to what I know about Clarksville. It's 60 miles up the street from us. We have a lot of veterans that up there near Fort Campbell. And the market up there is the seller understands that VA buyer is not going to pay a penny to buy that house.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to pay all the closing costs. And right now they're going, and so in order for that person to sell the house, the listing agent is going to be like, "Hey, the buyer can't pay this fee. If you list it to where you want a VA buyer to come in, they're going to have to pay this out of their pocket," which is one out of every, how many ever has the excess, 3% laying around? You're going to reduce your pool extreme. So I think like that VA market probably ain't going to change a whole lot. Because they can't. I mean, what can they do?
You mean for that market for the market that's already established, like you're telling in Clarksville, that particular subset?
In a VA market. I mean, because the builders and everybody, the whole town caters to the soldiers, because that's who's buying the house.
Colorado Springs right here.
Yeah, I mean, so if you don't cater to the soldiers, and and you better look at your where they're at, like an E6 to E1 or wherever their pay grade is, because you can't buy can't build $700,000-800,000 houses if you've got a bunch of infantry, a bunch of enlisted younger guys coming in,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So that's all the VA stuff, but I think VA will work itself out. I really do, because the whole market is VA, if that makes sense. There'll be some squirrelies in there that try, oh, I ain't gonna pay it, but they're not gonna get a buyer.
Right. I think I understand the concept of what the VA loans are about. Make it easier for them to buy a house, but this is stacking the odds for not being in a military area. If you've got conventional loans versus, just like Angie's saying, versus cash buyer, which isn't really going to change things, versus VA. VA is going to be pretty low on the list, for that's a good one. Yeah. And all I'm talking about is in the example of if a seller is offering 1%, if they're offering 1%, it's not even a question to the VA buyer. It's not even a question. It's a question to the agent. Are you going to accept that?
Right.
That's
right.
really what it is, That's
exactly.
what it is. And I wanted to address this, and maybe you can help me with this, Rodney. Maybe it'll be easier with cash.
Let me jump in. I want to say this. We're talking about confusion. We're talking about two changes. I think it's going to be, I think the market, I don't know if it's not easier right now for a buyer. And the reason I say that is because I think it's become where everything's negotiable. And I think that's better for a buyer. I think when it become everything's negotiable, I think that helps. I think it helps some buyers. It helps a lot of buyers. But we'll go wait and see. The thing I worry about is representation. Here's
my
go ahead.
Here's my take on that. Cash buyer is going to make it a heck of a lot easier when it comes to inspections and appraisals and all that kind of stuff, because you can ignore it or use that as an out. If you want to call for an appraisal and it's a cash purchase and it doesn't come up, you can go, I'm out of here, right? Cash, you're the boss. But cash, this might be a good example. If you go to Knoxville or Chattanooga, is it Knoxville? I think it's Knoxville you're thinking about. I could be wrong. Chattanooga, sorry. When you go out there and you're looking at houses, and I'm assuming it's going to be after July. I don't know this, but if it is, you're going to have, if you're going to use an agent, a lot of ifs in there already, a signed buyer's representation agreement as to what they're going to receive, regardless of what the seller is willing to pay. I lost a word there, but you know what I'm saying. You're going to sign a buyer's representation agreement committing to those numbers. Now, as a cash buyer, that may give you the flexibility, certainly seems like it, to pay for that buyer's agent. But here's my point. Give me less for my house and want a bunch done. Got it.
As a seller, yeah. See, yeah, exactly. I mean,
oh, okay. Well,
she thinks like everybody else on the face of the planet. I mean, it's like, yeah. I mean, I'll pay a buyer's commission too.
But I was taking the view of, let's say that we're moving to a new city and we've got a buyer's agent, and you've got 7 options of houses, and some of them that you like are 0% commission offered, and the others are 3% offered. Those are real price different. Let's say your price range is $600,000. That's $18,000 difference to your pocketbook in real money, depending on the house. Yeah, there's Philip. Hey, Philip and Wendy. Hi. You sneaky guys. The incentive is not to use one. That's correct.
It seems that way. I mean, it seems that way, but it doesn't if you pay, like if you save 6,000 in commissions or 10, 15,000 commissions, but you paid 35 more for the house.
Well, I mean, see, that's a whole another layer of.
Of just confusion on those two changes.
No. I mean, let's say that somebody they choose not to use an agent. That's fine. They'll never know if they overpaid for that house by $40,000. They'll never know.
You will know. You will when you go to
to get appraisal.
Yeah. Yeah.
That right.
Yeah, I'm with Ange too. If I love the house, I don't. It doesn't matter For me, it wouldn't matter what I paid. Like, that's what you're paying for. In my opinion, but that's not a good financial way to look at things.
You also buy cars online sight unseen, and you're okay with it too. Which is, I love you for that.
I bought. Yeah, that's all I buy them. I don't want to drive them. I drove every one of them.
So it's hard to see those numbers at start. Yeah, let me show you a couple of things. And the bottom line with Barbara Corcoran, and she agrees with Rodney, and she's saying there's too much of a big deal being made out of this. It's not that big a deal. But what you have is one. Yeah, there you go. That's, my number. There is too much. It is a big deal, but the problem is you got 1.5 million realtors trying to figure it out. You got, I don't know how many lenders there are. I have no clue, but they're trying to figure it out. And then you got sellers like this guy we were talking about. I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
Let's try it. Full steam ahead. It's just nothing but confusion. Let me show you. If these are real time, I'm going to show you something here. What these are common responses that I'm seeing on Facebook, on Realtor sites. And this is the reason I'm bringing all this up is this is just an example of some of the confusions. I see companies are already offering flat fee service to sellers now. You bet. I mean, there's going to be a lot of marketing going on with that kind of thing. Here's another one. I received a phone call. A buyer was looking for a listing agent. I told her I was not the listing agent, but happy to help her. She told me she doesn't want to pay commission to a buyer's agent and to work directly with the listing agent. It's exactly what you said, Rodney. To save money. I asked her if it was okay to pay a commission to the listing agent because she won't do the job for free, and in the end, she'll pay the same amount. I don't necessarily agree with his argument, but there's an example of somebody that is getting the message that it's now the buyer's responsibility to pay commissions, even if she didn't know it before. You know what I mean? She didn't realize that it was paid by the seller before. Who's this? These are real time. It's just a few hours ago for this stuff. Who is a successful flat fee or hourly buyer's agent? Never heard of that. I mean,
I've never heard of the hourly either.
Now, this is an example of an investor, and the agent was asking him, I'd like for us to be able to work together. And this was what he sent. He sent his list of demands on what he'll accept to work with with the agent. And you can see it's pretty detailed. I mean, that's what we're 2 weeks into this. We haven't even got started yet. Question, now here you go. You're the listing agent. You try everything, but the seller will not offer buyer agent compensation. So you list it. And this is real time. A buyer comes direct to you. You try everything and the buyer will not pay anything. What do you do? And then that's why there's so much confusion. Because what do you do? I don't have an answer.
So the people saying the seller is saying, you are the listing agent. You try everything. The seller will not offer buyer agent compensation. So you list it. A buyer comes direct to you. You try everything, but the buyer the buyer comes direct to you, so you don't have a buyer's agent in that situation, right? What's the
Yeah,
problem
but
there?
under normal circumstances, when you list a house, you list it, say, for X percent. I won't say a number because
Yeah,
that's the problem, but you list it for X percent, whether there's a buyer's agent or not. If you sell it and there's no buyer agent, meaning there's no buyer agent involved, you get the entire X percent.
right,
You don't split it.
right.
In this case, there was nothing to split. And so she's kind of complaining about only getting the listing side and having to manage the buyer as well for free. Now, back in the day when it was foreclosure city, what I did to keep money flowing into the house is I would sell a house for free and help them buy a house. And my total commission, except for $1,000, I'd charge them $1,000 to sell their house, no matter what it cost. But we had a contract that they allowed me to be buyer's agent for their buy-in. And so my commission for 2 houses was $1,000 to list and whatever their buyer commission was.
Yeah. I just see that this listing agent though, I would work with that buyer and sell that house for 3% because that's all they're getting anyways, especially going forward.
Yeah, and what you can see that she's complaining about is doing the paperwork for the other side. That's what she's complaining about.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm even gonna say anything on that one.
I know, but I'm just saying. So I got a call from a lead on Zillow. This is funny. Wanted to see. This is the pickle that we're in now. Except this is gonna clear up a lot. And for anybody that's watching this, you think this is minutia. This is real world agent stuff right here. I'm going to set this up. If I'm sitting home on a Saturday morning and somebody calls and says, "Hey, I got $1.5 million I want to spend. Will you show me some houses?" I'll check them out a little bit. Chances are pretty good. I'm going to get up and go, and maybe waste a day or a weekend with somebody that I don't actually know. Signing a buyer's agency agreement is going to change that.
Right.
It's going to change it because now you say, "I'd love to, but we have to have a buyer's agency agreement." Click. That's what's going to happen. Yeah. I got a call from a lead on Zillow, wanted to see 7 homes. When I asked if she had an agent, she said she wasn't looking to commit to one. She just wanted someone to show her around. I explained how my buyer consultation works. She insisted on working with multiple agents, which is the way it used to be. They would call you up, you'd let them in your house, and then they go buy with somebody else. They're just looking for door openers. It's frustrating because Zillow and realtors are pushing the sewing agent model. She said she'd call someone else. At this point, Zillow needs to rethink their approach because without signed agreements, it's just a waste of time and money. That's going to change.
Yeah, and that's, and honestly, that's going to help that situation right there.
100%. That in one. It'll clarify that because as an agent now you just don't have a choice.
Yeah, nobody.
Yeah.
I mean,
before you were.
Who wants to drive a person around that says they want to work with several agents? It's like,
no thanks.
That's crazy anyway. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But if you're new, you're doing it, and hoping you can connect with them because isn't that what it's all about?
Yeah.
But here, the backstory on this. And you can see at the bottom, it says, "Can't believe this is starting." This was on May 24th. It was just a few days after the announcement. The backstory is that this Monique person was working with somebody, almost had the deal inked. And then, they were going to, regular standard stuff, X percent, okay? And then their seller sent him this text. "Hey, good morning. Are you willing to work as a dual agent for 30 days at 3% to..." Golly, talk about.
It's happening.
And I'm not laughing because it's funny. It's like, golly. Here's a guy, pretty smart. You can see when I pulled this down. This is just an inspector. And I'm going to read through this because it's good. I may not be getting it, but it seems to me there's going to be some frustrated sellers on the other side of this. And this is what Rodney and I have been talking about. So the scenario, seller stipulates 0% to the buyer's agent in the contract with the listing agent, assuming buyer's commission can no longer be posted on the MLS. Correct. Result, the buyer agent called, text, or email to find out the buyer agent commission. I mean, and that's going to be a nightmare, the phone ringing off the hook. How many times that's going to happen? Gets told 0 and has to have a conversation with their buyer regarding that payment. The buyer then decides to go look at houses that have a buyer's agent commission attached so they don't have to pay out of pocket. Seems like this may lead the sellers to offering no buyer's agent commission to have less foot traffic. At least that's going to happen. And this is just like, and he's just an inspector. All I mean by that is he's not in the business.
Right.
So he's already predicting what we're talking. I thought I couldn't help but laugh at that. Sorry. Now here's what I want to say. It's not the listing agent doing. They're not the listing agents offering. It's the seller. Our office, there's just last two. Our office just got a sign call today on Easter. Hi, we're at a house and want to peek through the windows. We saw staging online that we liked at this house. It's a key phrase, we saw staging. This is literally somebody that wants to go get decorating ideas. Literally. Do you have an agent? No, we don't want one. So we're going to be hearing that a lot. We need to schedule a showing. But we just want to peek around and look through the windows. We just want to make sure we don't get shot. This is not the house isn't yours. It's not mine either. We have to get with the owner to schedule an approved time to see the house. You don't understand. We're here now and we want to go look around. I'm telling you, that's real world.
Yeah, you don't understand. Yeah, no, you don't understand.
I understand, but you can't show up at someone's house and not unannounced or without approval.
At least he understands he might get shot.
But then they'll sue him, I suppose.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like this is some good stuff, Andy. This is some really, really good. But I wanna throw that just like that right there, what that guy was saying, and kind of go back to what Philip was saying. I may agree, but the extra layer of a buyer's contract slows things down. When you have a for sale by owner or one agent, and in a normal deal, a really good smooth deal usually consists of either one really good agent or two good agents in a good title company. So when you take this one agent out of the mix, honestly, it's gonna make mortgage lending will be more difficult. I'll guarantee you that. And that's what and Philip says it, and I do understand what he's saying. Anytime you add somebody in the mix, but when you go and buy, there's a lot of buyer stuff that you're doing. You know, you're doing a lot of the inspections. You're doing the termite. You might be doing termites. You know, you're handling the home inspection. Now, who is the buyer going to handle that with? They're going to handle that directly with the seller's agent. You know what I'm saying? Is that who's already told them we ain't fixing that. I'm going to tell you right now. You know, I mean, so that's what when you get multiple people involved, they can negotiate and keep deals together. The number of deals that will get blowed up because there's only one agent involved it's going to go into the 25-30% mark.
Yes, that's correct.
These houses are going to have multiple contracts on them. Multiple agents do the number one thing they do is they keep deals together. They keep deals together.
The way that our office is going to handle the situation is that any of our sellers will continue to have agency with them. We are their listing agent period. And if a buyer wants to come in, they'll be unrepresented, but it'll be disclosed that unrepresented means, well, you're just not unrepresented. It's like going to court without a lawyer. It's kind of the same, a little bit.
Right.
Might be a little extreme, but that's the deal.
Okay. Right. But it's easy to put, okay, so when you're going through this contract and they say, well, I want a home inspection, and it's easy to agree, well, hey, it's customary, you get one in the first week or whatever. Oh, that's fine. But when that buyer gets the 16-page or 25-page home inspection that shows every little scratch on there, and then they're going to want the whole thing fixed, people be like, hey, man, it's a home inspection. All of them look like that. Give me your top two or something. That's when it's going to go bad. And think about new construction. People try to save on new construction, listing agent all the time anyways, and that's the world's worst for a buyer to go buy new construction without their own representation.
All of a sudden nothing's negotiated. I mean, it's rack prices.
Yes,
rack prices. I wanted to show you there's going to be one other. Nobody's been talking about this, but there was a late addition to the NAR settlement, and it was this. Hang on. Here we go. The NAR settlement requires realtors to take new headshots every 10 years.
That's I was wondering when they was going to do that.
It's like, that's not your picture. That's not you.
I'm going to jump in on this bandwagon, that article right there, because the mortgage people are just as bad. I see people with mortgages. I'm like, I knew you when you was 20 and took that picture. Like, I've been in the business for 25 years now. I remember that picture the whole time. Like, now you are working with your daughter. Like, please update that picture. Like,
More than once, and I can say this because I won't use any names, but more than once over the years, I see somebody's picture, of an agent. We need to do inspection, and for them, they have to be there. Whatever. Usually $1 million stuff and over, they'll be there. But all I knew of this woman, was this glamour shot, and I mean, it was really a great picture. And you pull up and you go, what? Hi. Didn't see you there. Golly.
Yes. I love it. My
trying
mom
to take the edge off of that.
My mom was in this business too, and I used to tell her the older she got, the more turquoise and sequins she wore. And of course she didn't like that very much, but it's all good folks. Hey, I'll tell you what, it's nobody likes to age, and
and if you got a good picture,
and ladies are typically more concerned about their appearance than men. But yeah, that photo right there, that comment's a really good classic, because for our industry, we are known to hang on to these pictures for a while.
I want to just finish up just a couple of things before we get out of here. If you sold, this is for Angie. I think you might have covered this, but maybe not. If you sold your listing to one of your buyers, you get a higher commission, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it work the same now? Depends. I mean, by now you mean post settlement, post July. It depends on what you've agreed with the seller, and that hasn't changed. That hadn't changed. Yes. Nor do I agree with having an agent, but I do need to move fast. Wait, nor do I agree, but I need to move fast, and now I'm needing to get a pre-contract lucky. Oh. Okay.
Was he with the guy on the left or the guy on the right?
I think he was with both. Oh, God. I think that's it. Golly. It's an exhausting topic, and I got to tell you, I'm going to keep hitting this. Because I love, what's interesting to me is breaking it down to the two simple things that have changed and the 1,000 different questions that can be made because of that. And we just saw a few examples. I'm going to keep compiling those things. It's going to be
You're right, but it's wild. The two questions, the two formal changes have created a big. And I'll tell you what, what's crazy is every day I'm changing my opinion on how this thing is going to go down. I can tell you that. The much to do about nothing has went away and came back about 5 times. So it's going. I'm anxious to see how this. It's exciting times. I think it's a good change. The confusion. I am happy that I don't think the confusion is slowing the market down right now, which is good.
Which is what I started this show off with, with the idea that things that are closing now were contracts that were essentially consummated, other than the closing. They were already set in motion. But now, as we begin, this month and beyond, we're going to start introducing these contracts with all of these variables.
Yes. Yes.
So we'll see how we feel about that in the next 70 days, 60 days.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We're going to see some wild stuff. We're going to see some wild stuff.
It's going to be crazy. Angie, Philip, Wendy, you are such good people. Thanks for joining us today. Rodney, do you have any final thoughts?
No, just for anybody listening, it's a good time to buy right now. Just call your local people and get them to help you.
And if you've got questions or concerns or whatever the case, give Rodney and I a call. Our contact information will be in the description box and the comments below. Everybody have a great week. And Rodney, I'll see everybody next Tuesday.